I'm delighted to be here today as one of the voices of the private sector to share our perspective on what needs to change and what we need to do as a concerted community to put education back on track and to leave no one behind. We've heard from the distinguished speakers before me so eloquently about the urgency to address the issue of equitable and sustainable access to quality education for all, and the role that technology can play as an accelerator of that effort. We've also heard the past few days, couple of days, from the youth. Also, for instance, this morning, there was a strong message from a young lady sharing how she was terrified about the future, that we needed to act today. In an ideal world, we should hear a message of hope from all our youth. We've also heard from another young person about the importance of focusing our efforts on the most marginalized, refugees, girls, children with disabilities. These are important messages for us. So what needs to be done is today quite clear to all. We have great frameworks out there. An example is the Rewired Global Declaration on Connectivity for Education that provides recommendations for governments on how to implement digital learning. It's currently being endorsed by governments across the world. So it's no surprise that the declaration carves a big role for connectivity. As an enabler of access to quality education. So I'll be focusing on 2 points from my perspective. It's connectivity or digital connectivity and digital skills. So today, connectivity is the backbone of our societies and our economies. As such, it has become evident for national and global actors that there is a need to have a concerted effort and funding to provide access to internet for all. And the pandemic has only highlighted even more this need, particularly in the education sector. As a leading telecommunication company working then in the IT sector, we've seen from our perspective, and I represent the sustainability part of the company driving our education efforts, an opportunity in leveraging technology to address global challenges, for instance, the one that the education sector is facing. So we've been focusing on how do we use technology for education, how do we use technology to support the education sector, but also how do we learn about technology, so the digital skill component. But one important thing for us is that no matter how good we think we might be at what we do, no one can solve the problem alone. So I would say that from our perspective, when we look at the Sustainable Development Goals as a framework, SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goal, is the foundational one for us. And from that perspective, we look a lot into partnering with entities, partners across sectors to see how we can join efforts, basically with like-minded organizations, to create that scale and impact. Examples are, we've joined the Global Education Coalition launched by UNESCO, and through that forum, we've been able to partner with a number of organizations to create scale. We've also partnered in 2020 with UNICEF to support the GIGA initiative. GIGA aims to connect all the schools to the internet by 2030. And the ambition is that through that connectivity, every young person is provided access to information, opportunity and choice. But then what we thought is, what is our role as a private sector, as a technology company? Where can we really bring strong, impact? So we funded UNICEF and the GIGA team, but beyond that, our perspective is that our in-kind contribution is one of the areas where we can best contribute. So we've brought expertise from our engineers, our data scientists, so engineers in AI, machine learning, experts on networks, to help our partners understand the needs on the ground. Where are the schools? Are they connected or not? What would it take to connect these schools? So that then governments and other actors would then be able to fundraise and then ultimately connect these schools. This is one example of how, from our perspective, we looked into how we can complement efforts from other organizations, rather than recreate or create our own. So I would say if I have one key message today is to urge the multi-sector partners, particularly the private sector, to ask themselves, how can I contribute, how can I complement or improve on what others are already doing well, rather than what can I do on myself as an organization, as a country, for instance. And I think we have a good example here with the representation from Huawei and Ericsson. We are two competitors, but at this table, we are here to partner, to work together, to bring the same message, to solve the same problem. So this is maybe one of the messages we bring from the private sector. And there was another message from one of the meetings yesterday where we were told that let's put our egos aside for the good of all and for the good of all our children. Now, on the second aspect, which is the skills, maybe just one point I could add, and I know we don't have much time, is that one of the roles that the private sector can bring to the table is that we have expertise in-house. We train our own people, we upskill our own people. Collaborating with the private sector, with the public sector, for instance, universities, to bring that knowledge and those skills out in the public sphere is one of the activities that we are investing most in today, and we see a strong role for the private sector. And that starts by identifying the skill gaps in the workforce, and beyond that, really helping the education sector address those gaps through microcredits, targeted opportunities for upskilling young adults. And I think with that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.